You know, I always thought a video like this was unnecessary post-launch because there's dozens of tips and tricks videos that are always very helpful, especially to new players. But then I realized something. With Payday 3 being taken off of Game Pass and the Year 1 edition of the game releasing soon, it's always good to keep new or returning players in mind because the game has changed so much, it's almost recognizable a year later. That's why I'm releasing this video on its anniversary and providing 9 useful tips that anyone can implement to essentially perfect the game. Now remember, this is for inexperienced players, so don't be shocked if some of these are blatantly obvious. That just means the tips aren't for you. So the first thing is utilizing favors. I get into lobbies with level 150 players who still for some reason fail to bring a favor on harder difficulties, which is like playing handicapped for no reason. If you're a new player who hasn't completed many heists or don't have many heist specific favors, you can purchase basic extra deployables for 10k a pop. It's a great advantage that simply helps the team and there's no reason not to utilize it. I'd also like to add to make sure your favor matches your build. So for instance, if you're using an armor build for your class setup, bring an extra armor bag. The next is difficulty. I know this will sound very try-hard, but I don't recommend any new or returning player to ever play on anything less than very hard. For one, the game is designed to increase the intensity of each assault wave and loud, so getting used to the relentless pressure in every instance on every map is just better for the harder the game is. Each level is also more closely mirrored in this game than Payday 2, so you'd be facing the same quality, I guess, of threats no matter what difficulty you choose. And I think you just improve faster if you're playing this way. Okay, so next up is for exclusively new players, and it's to play with these settings turned off. First is turning off all post-processing effects that you see here. They just make any FPS gameplay worse. I've never seen in my life a good implementation of motion blur to any FPS game. It just distorts your vision. It makes it harder to shoot. Same goes for depth of field and chromatic aberration. Then I recommend for console players specifically playing on 80 FOV and choosing performance mode. The game can be quite intense at times, and having that extra frame rate over barely noticeable quality is nice. So, because I've tried all sorts of FOV options from 70 to 90, this is why I recommend the sweet spot is around 80 for FOV. But then again, this is just personal preference, and whatever makes you comfortable is the one you should ultimately choose. Also, if you'd like to see my gameplay settings, here they are. The most important ones are A, tap to slide as it makes mobility 10 times smoother. B, aim assist enabled and on the default like 1.0 ratio. And C, disabling head bob. Everything else really just depends on how you like to play the game. So just go whatever you feel like is best for you. Right, so now I'm going to recommend 5 crutch skills that should be used in every build and can be obtained very easily and early on. It's pointless to do a full build guide for this type of video as that's suited towards more veteran players. But anyways, in order of importance, we have mower, health siphon if possible, sprint loaded, either armor up or extras charged depending if it's a medic or armor build you're using, and last but not least, transporter. Now you can pause over any of these and read the description, but I will say these skills take no active involvement on the player sides and have great tools at their disposal for loud gameplay, unlike the other skills in the game that require buffs for edge, grit, and rush, and the know-how how to activate them. This next one may seem obvious, but I thought I'd mention it anyways, and that's to make sure you have at least one player in the lobby who's, I would say, at least level 100, but if possible, max level. A large part of improving is watching other experienced players who've played the game relentlessly and see how they move or what objectives they prioritize. It's okay to admit that you might have to follow a player who knows what they're doing and just follow them around. I don't see any problem with that personally. But that brings me to one of the biggest points, and that's being map knowledge. Now, thankfully, we have some kind of solo mode present for those who would like to case out each map and really get a feel for its layout, because although these maps are not really complex, playing them on higher difficulties, like I suggested, without understanding where the objective points or cloaker spots or sniper spots and other useful information would make the game challenging for anyone. You can also do like trial and error and stealth too. I found that that's usually the best way to learn maps and prepare for both playstyles. On to the next tip, which is utilizing the overkill weapons effectively. For instance, a lot of players just default to the Red Fox sniper because it deals with jugs quickly if you land headshots and has no opportunity to damage you like the Mamba launcher does. But to shy away from the potential the launcher has to bunch crowd control away from civilians is just wasteful. The launcher may be the weaker of the two, but on certain maps with light civ counts like Road Rage and Touch the Sky, or maybe even Boys in Blue, I think it's just as good, if not better, in a lot of instances. That brings me to the final point or final tip for how to master Payday 3, which is the most important advice I could give any player, and that's to play with some variety. If you're someone who likes to play with one playstyle, in either loud or stealth, with one loadout, with one build, with the same equipment every round, you're not mastering shit. I'm sorry to put it bluntly, but you're just comfortable with the method that may work for you, but there's other methods out there that you could be missing out on that are more compatible with your playstyle or are just a fun experience because you decided to leave well enough alone. This tip can be applied to literally any FPS game ever played. A lot of players will just find a playstyle that's just they're comfortable with, and then they'll just stick with it. And I'm just adding this to the list as well. Alright, that's all I have for you today. But keep in mind, this is by no means all the tips or useful points that I could think of. I have about 30 some odd hints and tips and tricks I think every player could use. I just condensed it down to 9, excluding things like positioning and weapon optimization, because those are things that you learn over time. They take time to learn for any player, but really just focusing on the things anyone can try out and play around with if they want to get better at the game. But anyways, if anyone out there has other ideas they'd like to share, you can do so in the comments. Also, anything I may have left out, like on any particular topic that I may have mentioned and something about it I left out, feel free to comment about that as well. But anyways, yeah, that's it. I'll see you guys next time.